So I have returned 10% off the next order. Ooh, it smells like fucking glue in here. It's strong. Okay, guys, look what I got. So I ordered some keys. I ordered some keys for my new house from this company. I got sold by a fucking ad on Instagram. Check out these fucking keys. Are you ready for this right now? It's a monstera leaf. A cactus. I got this one for Josh. This is the one Elliot wanted, a sword. Makes your key look like a sword. I gave Adam one that was a peace sign. And then I got my Aunt Holly a shell. I'm a little disappointed. I'll tell you about it in a second. And then I got this for my shop key. Money, 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 money. I will say that I am a little disappointed in the, I don't know, the depth of the print. It's not quite like it was on the internet. Like this one just, I mean, it's big and it's like, you know, monsterly, but like it's, you have to do that to really see the print. It doesn't, it's like they didn't, the cactus is the worst one, I think. You can see how it's not pressed all the way, the stamp. And so it's just not, so I'm going to email them about that and we'll see what happens. But I love them either way. I love the idea of them and I'm very excited about it. So I got us some custom keys for my new house, for my new shop, for Josh. I want Josh, you know, I'm going to give Josh and Elliot 2 keys each because they have to have one for the house, my house and Daddy's house. So, all right, let's get back to work. Hello, I'm back. I love you. Are you hungry? Oh, you heard that. Yep. Yep. Are you hungry? Yep. Here. Come on, I got the gravy kind. It's your favorite. There you go. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Right here. Come on. You dingus. Let's go. Oh, that got her. Look, there's treats involved too. It's very gluey smelling in here. I'm gonna open my door and turn on the fan. Do do do. Elliot. Elliot! I remember to freaking flip these, at least. Oh, Heather. Want a treat too, buddy? You have a boy treat? He's wagging his tail because he knows it's coming. You get a variety. I got 3 different kinds of treats for him today. Duck feet, duck jerky, and fish, dried, dehydrated little sprat. I move on the 15th.
Fans were shocked when Key and Peele abruptly announced that they would be ending their iconic sketch comedy show in 2015. At the time, everyone assumed the duo was simply ready to move on to bigger opportunities, and that was true for one of them. Jordan Peele's Hollywood career skyrocketed, becoming one of the most respected filmmakers in the industry. Keegan-Michael Key, on the other hand, has been jobbing for commercials and insignificant roles in films, which is shocking because Key was always considered the more popular of the two and expected to be more successful in the long run. But recently, a comedian who worked closely with Keegan revealed something that completely changed the way fans looked at Key and Peele's relationship. And now many are looking back at awkward interviews, strategic silence, and most importantly, how Keegan's wife may secretly be the reason why the duo feels so distant today. However, there are a lot of baseless rumors and misinformation spreading, as well as important facts we need to dive into before you come to the conclusion of what happened to Key and Peele. Despite the show only running for 3 years, the legacy and impact of Key and Peele cannot be minimized. Just take a look at the Comedy Central YouTube channel. 18 out of their 20 most viewed videos are all Key and Peele Peele sketches, amassing over 1 billion views just on YouTube alone. Think about all the classic Comedy Central roasts, TV shows, and stand-up specials. None of them can even hold a candle to Key and Peele. But it could not have happened if the two didn't develop a deeply personal connection off screen. They were both raised as biracial children to a black father and a white mother, growing up with the unique identity of being mixed. Sometimes they felt that they were never black enough. Sometimes they felt they were never white enough, and were forced to code switch to assimilate with whoever was in the room.
That's so ridiculous to turn that into your personality, your like victimization.
In general. After moving from Detroit to Chicago, Keegan-Michael Key crossed paths.
Hey, my dad left for a pack of cigarettes and a loaf of bread.
The two realized they had incredible synergy.
But I don't make it my personality.
Together and were eventually picked up as writers and talent on the Fox sketch comedy show Mad TV.
Banker is prepared to offer you $350,000.
Something. Here we go.
The few sketches that they did together on Mad TV displayed their incredible chemistry and indicated that they needed their own show.
What do I always say? Stay on the inside. Jinx, no backseats, no penny tax. What? You ain't supposed to talk. Jinx, double jinx, triple jinx, Google Flex.
Unfortunately, their time on Mad TV was short-lived until the entire program was canceled in 2009. Afterwards, Key landed a supporting role in the short-lived sitcom Gary Unmarried, which was canceled in 2010. Meanwhile, Jordan's pilot for a comedy show titled The Station had been shut down by Fox executives, leaving both of them without work. That's when their shared talent manager suggested that the two get together and try to launch their own project.
So my sitcom got canceled and his pilot for Fox didn't go. And our manager said, would you guys be interested in doing something together? Because I've got a situation that I think I can leverage.
The result of this was them creating their own sketch comedy show called Key and Peele, which was picked up by Comedy Central and slated for a 2012 release. Their series debut came right after the season 4 premiere of Tosh.0, setting the comedy duo up for the biggest opportunity of their careers. And to say they capitalized on it would be an understatement. Two of their most iconic sketches were in the very first episode, starting with a classic where the two attempt to say a forbidden word in regards to their wives, which by the end of this video you'll see how incredibly ironic it is that this was the very first Key and Peele sketch.
I look this one in the eyes here.
Bitch.
Bitch. 6:45.
You said that.
Yeah, I said.
In the same episode, their next bit was Jordan acting as President Obama giving a speech to the country, and Key acting as his anger translator, turning his respectful words into aggressive commands.
I just want to say to my critics, I hear your voices, and I'm aware of your concerns.
So maybe if you can chill the hell out for like a second, then maybe I can focus on some you know.
The show was an instant hit. Over 2 million viewers tuned in for the debut episode, and future episodes would continue to pull in millions of viewers. But before we get into that, we all live busy lives. There are so many things to do, and it never feels like there's enough time in the day. You should probably go get that yearly checkup to make sure you're in good health, but you don't have the time to sit on hold all day. Today's sponsor, ZocDoc, makes the process a whole lot easier. ZocDoc lets you search and compare local, in-network doctors with more than 150,000 providers and over 200 specialties across all 50 states. You can view tons of reviews from real patients and detailed doctor profiles to help you choose the right one. ZocDoc lets you see actual appointment openings and click to instantly book a visit. Appointments happen fast, usually within 24 to 72 hours, and you can even score same-day appointments. Best of all, ZocDoc is free to use. Taking care of your health just got easier. Head to ZocDoc.com/PatrickCC to get started and check that appointment off your to-do list. Every season they put out a new sketch that would become a cultural staple, like the East-West College Bowl, where they poked fun at ridiculous names of college athletes.
Hingle McCringleberry, Penn State University. Le Carpetron Duke Marriott, Florida Atlantic University.
Ridiculous Morgoon. University of South Florida.
Speaking of names, we have to mention the substitute teacher bit, where Key cannot pronounce extremely common American names.
So why didn't you say it the first time I said Aaron? Because it's pronounced Aaron.
Shut up! You done messed up, Aaron!
People still call me Aaron to this day. To this day. They had a way of making relatable humor refreshingly absurd, but I personally liked when they would lean into their ridiculousness a little more. My favorite sketch of theirs is Prepared for Terry's, where the two act as borderline schizophrenics who are trying to convince the passenger next to them that they will protect the entire plane if a terrorist tries to take over.
You gonna have to be ready to kidnap a Terry. You're gonna have to be ready to torture a Terry.
I don't think that's necessary.
Absolutely. You have to fireboard those mother jealous.
And if this is somehow
You
the
wanna go
first
outside,
time
my
you've ever
heart?
hearing of
Okay,
Key
hold
and
on, I'm
Peele,
coming.
I think the biggest sign of
It's
their
raining
success
outside.
and cultural
You're gonna get wet.
significance is that the literal president of the United States invited Keegan-Michael Key to do a remake of their anger translator bit, but during a real speech.
Because despite our differences, we count on the press to shed light on the most important issues of the day. And we can count on Fox News to terrify old white people with nonsense.
In 3 short years, Key and Peele managed to create a culturally iconic sketch comedy show filled with quotable moments reminiscent of early 2000s comedy films. And since YouTube and social media was on track to replace TV and movie theaters, Key and Peele proved that the future of comedy was in good hands. But then, shockingly, in 2015, Keegan-Michael Key announced that they were ending the show. This is our final season.
Wait,
and
what?
not
It's
because
been
of
off
Comedy
since
Central,
2015?
it's us. It was just time for us to
Really?
explore other things, together and apart. I compare it to Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor. We might make a movie and then do our own thing for 3 years and then come back and do another movie. Fans were initially disappointed, but in a way, the show lived on much longer than 3 years due to its success on YouTube. Over the years, fans would be scrolling YouTube and randomly see a Key and Peele sketch get recommended to them. It could be one they've seen a dozen times or one they didn't even recognize, but if they click, they can get a guaranteed laugh. Plus, in 2016, the duo released their action comedy film, Keanu, seemingly indicated that their future Hollywood careers would be them working side by side. The duo served as both the writers and leading actors for the film, which gave the movie a sense of familiarity for fans of the show. Now, the film was met with a lukewarm response from critics, and it only grossed $20 million in the box office. Considering the film's $15 million budget, plus the millions of dollars spent on advertising, the movie significantly underperformed. With that being said, the movie wasn't bad, it was just the first step in a new chapter for the comedy duo. But then, Jordan Peele shocked the world with the announcement of his directorial debut psychological horror film, Get Out. The movie followed a young black man named Chris visiting the wealthy white family of his girlfriend, who didn't know that he was black. The family initially appeared to be progressive and accepting towards the boyfriend, but it was awkward, like they were so eager to express their appreciation for black culture. The family's hired staff to help with their house duties are all black and behave strangely. All of their white friends are overly interested in Chris, seemingly obsessing over his black identity. Later, Chris finds out that his girlfriend had been dating black people all of her life, but luring them to her family's estate where they would be hypnotized, psychologically manipulated, and then sold for a sinister procedure. The family would surgically remove the black person's brain and replace them with the consciousness of the aging white clients who wanted to continue living through the younger black bodies. The scariest part is that the victims themselves wouldn't fully die either. Their consciousness would remain trapped deep inside their own minds in what the film calls the sunken place, forced to helplessly watch someone else control their body forever. Jordan was one of the trailblazers in weaving social commentary in a genre film in the 2010s. The film was universally celebrated for its terrifying atmosphere, uncomfortably hilarious moments, and unapologetic social commentary. With a $5 million budget, the movie grossed $250 million at the box office and received countless awards from various institutions, including the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. Overnight, Jordan Peele went from that funny guy from Comedy Central to a legitimately serious creative mind in the entertainment industry. What's interesting is that Keegan-Michael Key was primarily regarded as the heavy hitter of the duo. In 2015 and 2016, Key was nominated for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a comedy series at the Emmys. However, Peele was not nominated for the same role. Key also gained his relevancy from his his appearance at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, something that Peele was also excluded from. Not to mention that Key received way more acting gigs in major TV shows and movies during Key and Peele's run. Most people believed Key would be the more successful of the two, and yet Jordan was now receiving worldwide praise without Key's involvement at all. Well, that's not entirely true. Keegan-Michael Key is actually a major reason why Get Out got made in the first place.
Were you reading this at all while she was writing? Were you involved in it all?
Yeah. He said I wasn't involved in any of the writing, but he sent me the script, and I remember at one point in time I either wrote him. No, I was in the room, and I came into the office the next day, and I put the script on his desk. I went, I said, this could be something. And then I went and talked to a good friend of mine, Sean McKittrick. I made a movie with Sean McKittrick from QC Entertainment, who made it. And I said, you guys should really read Jordan's script. And then now here we are. And like Sean came to me at a party and he hugged me. And I'm like, why are you hugging me? He's like, you brought the script to me. And I was like, look, but it was amazing.
Hold on, I'm coming.
Scripts to you. But if it wasn't that amazing, who would have made it? It's such a fresh story.
And as if things couldn't get any better for Jordan, he followed up with a producer.
It's a fresh story. It's literally look who's or what is it that?
Which also received
There was
6
a movie in the
Academy
60s that was
Award
made.
nominations. And in 2019, Jordan continued his reign of dominance as a director with the release of Us, a psychological horror film following a family on vacation that gets terrorized by another family that looks exactly like them. Once again, critics and fans loved it. The film grossed over $250 million worldwide against a budget of only around $20 million. Proving Get Out wasn't some lucky one-time success. In just a few years, Jordan Peele had fully transcended comedy and established himself as one of the most commercially successful and critically respected directors in Hollywood. And with every massive success, the gap between him and Keegan-Michael Key only seemed to grow wider. Key stayed consistently busy between 2016 and 2020, stacking dozens of television appearances, voice acting roles, commercials, guest spots, and supporting performances across sitcoms, animated shows, and streaming series. Shows like Modern Family, The Simpsons, Archer, Friends from College, and Green Eggs and Ham. Instead of evolving into a singular creative force with a clear artistic identity, Key slowly started feeling more like a talented utility player in Hollywood. He was everywhere, but never the main character. And after Jordan's third directorial release, Nope, in 2022, which was yet another resounding success loved by fans and critics, you could argue that Jordan Peele has completely eclipsed his role in Key and Peele, with his efforts as a horror writer and director becoming the focal point of his legacy. The same cannot be said for Key, as many still remember him primarily as the guy from Key and Peele. I think it's interesting that Key is doing commercials that show up on Hulu, and Peele is one of the driving forces of cinema. I kind of hate comparing them because Key is also incredibly talented, but Peele is truly on another level. And while they may have grown apart in the public eye, very few question the legitimacy of their friendship behind the scenes. And that's because they did things like joining forces in a Netflix animated film called Wendell and Wild, where Jordan and Keegan serve as voice actors for two of the primary characters. And although the animation was captivating, many fans felt disappointed in the story. The duo also teamed up in Toy Story 4 to play side characters Ducky and Bunny. People had assumed that because they did these collaborations that everything was all good between them. But Key would speak on this directly during an interview in 2024. We don't see each other that often anymore, which is, to me, a tragedy. Key went on to explain in a separate interview that them living far apart from each other played a major factor in their estrangement. Whenever we have an opportunity to see each other, we do. Whenever we have an opportunity, I certainly enjoy spending time with him. So when my travels take me to Los Angeles, he's usually one of the first calls that I make. I land and I go, hey buddy, we're in town. And often we get to have dinner. Our relationship is like a good friend's relationship, where you pick up where you left off, where the little things that you shared in the past, you just go right back into it again. I look forward to seeing him in 2025. What's interesting is that Jordan Peele gets interviewed way more than Keegan because he's way more active and front-facing in Hollywood, and yet he has said literally nothing about his former comedy partner, which creates the appearance that Jordan Peele has moved on while Key continues to live in the past. Like when Key was asked about a Key and Peele reunion, and he said, right now we're expressing ourselves that way, and I think we'll find ourselves back together. I do not have a timeline for that, but I would jump at the chance to work with him again in any capacity. Fans had no reason to believe that there was any bad blood between them. Maybe they had simply grown apart naturally over time, but that assumption started falling apart after a comedian who worked closely with Keegan publicly shared a story that completely changed the way people looked at Key and Peele's relationship. In April of 2026, comedian Akilah Hughes shared her experience working with Keegan-Michael Key using the not-so-subtle code names of Lock and Banana.
He is, and I don't think this is too shady. I think it's true. The less successful half of a comedy duo that was prolific in the 2010s. Perhaps, I think their code names
Are you guys
would be
seriously?
and
Dude,
Banana.
She also tweeted,
go watch my last live stream that I was doing right before I had to leave, and then come back and argue over politics, okay? Do not fucking argue politics. You're bamboozled and fooled into playing on for a team. Like, that's not how it works. That's not capitalism, that's not democracy, that's football. I understand in Brazil that, football is a huge thing, but we don't that's not what politics is, even though that's what our politicians have been doing. And we as Americans are fucking over it. We need to stop fighting with each other over stuff that billionaires are telling us we need to do. People that hate us and want us dead are telling us to hate each other. And I don't know about you guys, but I really don't tend to believe people like that. I'm not very trusting of the billionaire class, so yeah, go watch my last video because I'm busy and I can't articulate. But don't sit in my chat and fucking argue politics. That is retarded. The fuck's on my glue sticks? Longer.
If you ever wondered why K and PEL don't work together anymore, watch the next video in this thread. So there is absolutely no confusion in regards to who this story is about. Akilah got connected with Keegan-Michael Key while developing her own sketch comedy show, not necessarily for his creative input, but because she needed an established celebrity attached as an executive producer to help make the project more attractive to networks and studio executives, which is very common in the industry. But with Keegan came his wife, Elle Key, who supposedly wiggled her way to an executive producer role for the show.
My agent at the time told me, and she goes, "How is pitching going? How do people feel about Locke?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, they love him. Everybody loves Locke." And she's like, "That's great. That's great. How do they feel about his wife, who is now somehow the executive producer on my show?" And I'm like,
It's a
I
rug,
haven't
a
really
carpet.
thought about it. I don't think people like her very much.
But the strategy was effective. Having Keegan on as a producer landed them an official offer from Disney. Then one day, Akilah was contacted by Jordan Peele's wife, Chelsea Peretti, warning her about Keegan's wife and her involvement.
She says, "I'm just calling you because I wish someone would have warned me." She does about an hour of a monologue at me about how, she thinks that his wife is like Phil Hartman's wife. That she wouldn't trust her to hold a baby.
Oh, fuck.
She
You know what I
once
did?
poured alcohol on her birthday cake, and this person is sober. And she says, "There's no accounting
I fucked up.
for how much money she's cost that black man."
Despite the warning, Akilah continued working with them. After all, she had quit her job and moved to LA to chase this dream, but it proved to be a mistake. Apparently, Elle, who remember was not ever asked to be a part of this show, continued to insert her unwanted opinions in the writer's room.
Her notes are, "Comedy happens in threes. The letter K is funny. And finally, give the audience some candy." Now, how do you implement these notes?
None of the writers thought her ideas were good or funny, so they were ignored, to which Elle responded by threatening to sue the network. Akilah doesn't add much context here, but she is trying to make the accusation that Elle was just trying to ruin the project since it wasn't going her way. As a result, the show was stalled and eventually was canceled altogether.
And so that is just a project that I could not talk about, that was never announced, that was supposed to be my dream.
Now, first of all, there weren't many jokes in Akilah's performance.
I'm gonna save
The
this for
inclusion of a
later.
live band
I
made
fucked
this
up
some
bad.
kind of
I forgot to do the
exaggerated
background on
live
this, so
podcast
whoops.
gossip story time session, so it couldn't exactly
That'll
be
go in the
brushed
pile
off
of
as,
things to be
oh, well,
done
it's
some
just a
other
joke.
day.
And even though all of the details Akilah
If
shared
ever,
are incredibly
redo it all
vague, it's
together.
unlikely she
So
would
it's
create
fine.
a 12-minute story of completely baseless lies, especially considering the allegations aren't really that scathing. Like the idea of established Hollywood celebrities derailing a dream project for an upcoming creator because it didn't go their way sounds like something that happens every day in Hollywood. But it was this small added detail at the very end of Akilah's performance that has completely changed people's perspective of Keegan-Michael Key.
He never gets to be himself in public, and his partner has won Oscars. And everyone knows that his wife has ruined his career. It is diminishing returns. He's doing insurance commercials.
After she said that, sensationalized headlines emerged from Akilah's performance. Akilah Hughes says she knows exactly why Key and Peele don't work together anymore. Key's crazy wife destroyed Key and Peele, and while Akilah never said it directly, fans jumped to conclusions that Key and Peele had been driven apart by Key's annoying and power-hungry wife. And there is actually a little bit of evidence to back up those claims. 8 months before this story blew up, a blind item emerged about Key's wife. Personally, I happen to know that Elle Key IRL is a massive narcissist and straight up abusive to the working people in her vicinity. She's using Keegan's talent, fame, and likability to get herself in the room, in front of cameras, a microphone, calls herself a producer or director, and cuts a paycheck. Obviously, she needs to use Keegan because she has no talent or skill sets of her own to stand stand out without him. Everyone close to him who cares about him sees the abuse and wishes he'd leave her. And while this might sound like even more gossip, this allegation holds weight with a little more factual context. Elle Key, whose real name is Elisa Pugliese, was an aspiring actress who couldn't land anything more than being an extra with no lines or no significance to the plot. From there, she transitioned to being a producer for small-time, low-budget independent drama films that had an extremely small or no theatrical release. She met Keegan at a film festival in early 2016 and became his, quote, business partner. Eventually, Elle and Keegan's relationship turned romantic, and they got married in 2018. So for all the rumors saying that she is the reason why the Key and Peele show ended are just false. The show ended in 2015, and she didn't come into the picture until over a year later. Now, the rumors saying that she might be the reason why they didn't continue working together, well, that's entirely different. What you'll notice is that as Elle became more present in Keegan's career, Jordan started becoming more distant. Because remember, Keegan and Jordan worked together in 2022 on that animated show. Shortly after, everything changed. And it all centers around a book that Keegan and Elle co-authored called The History of Sketch Comedy, a journey through the art and craft of humor, which, by the way, is everyone's favorite subject, comedians talking about comedy. Well, one comedian at least. This book discusses subject matter that Keegan-Michael Key is undoubtedly an expert in, and aptly features him on the cover. They also created a podcast alongside this book. The credits describe Elle as the creator, writer, and director, whereas Key is simply just a performer and co-writer. To be clear, Elle Key has essentially no experience in sketch comedy, and has literally never said anything funny in her entire life. The idea that one of the greatest sketch comedy masterminds was portrayed as second fiddle to his wife in a podcast about sketch comedy was mind-boggling to say the least. But the project was well received. They won a Webby Award for Best Writing in a Podcast. When accepting, Elle gave a 5-word long speech that she couldn't do without crying, and Keegan did not get to say anything.
I can't watch it.
I think we both discovered that if we work on something together, it's better. Is that
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. Yeah.
But to others, based on Akila's story, they see her as manipulating and
He
forcing
looks
her
like the
way
kind of guy that would
into
be abused
spaces
by his
he
wife. You know what I
otherwise
mean?
would have never been a part of. Keegan's wording in this interview is particularly interesting. At first, he comes off endearing, but he also inadvertently admits that his wife uses him to advance her own career.
As you said, all good doors like lead to Elle and her opening that.
Yeah, she opened. Yeah, it's like I'm the key, and she knows where the doors are. So you just have to have the courage to put the key in the door. It's always wonderful you have someone in your life who can show you where the doors are.
But it goes one step further.
I try to
It
be that
seems
for
like
my husband.
has
He doesn't
adopted
listen.
the stereotypical wife guy personality, similar to Will Smith or Akash Singh, where the
So you
central
mean they're
focus of his
gay,
identity is surrounding
and their
his
wife is
less
their
famous
controlling
and less
beard?
successful partner. Backstage at Stephen Colbert, they did one of those classic couples games where they see if they know each other really well, only for Key to completely second guess himself or outright
No,
say
we
his
don't
wife
speak
was
French,
right every time
unfortunately.
they had opposing opinions.
Who said I love
No
you?
parlez-vous.
you ready?
Right.
3, 2, 1. Oh,
Oh. Okay.
We need to get
I
a
think this one's me.
file.
To some, he is just being sweet. To others, he looks pathetic. Like when Keegan was asked what he was most proud of in his entire career, then changed his mind to what his wife said should be his most prideful moment.
what is Keegan's proudest accomplishment? I think this is it. Ready?
She's gonna be right. And
3, and you're gonna be
if you can believe it, I'm going to be
3,
wrong.
2, 1.
Yeah, I wonder how he knows that.
She's right.
And if that didn't convince you, there's another moment where the 50-year-old man says his wife even picked
Oregon.
out his clothes because he can't do it.
Impeccably attired.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what percentage of this is your choice versus your wife's choice. Because I know
Oh,
your wife, Elle.
look, yes, my wife Elle
He's here?
is here. She is here. Yes, my wife Elle.
She's wearing a mask.
Impeccable taste. So I'm one of those people who likes to leave things to the experts. So everything on my body was chosen for me today to wear by Elle.
He seems
Yep.
to seek validation from his wife for literally everything, constantly looking at her to assure that he is saying the right thing.
Sometimes it's a challenge. Sometimes
I think I'm gonna go get myself a
resistance or
something warm to wear and
some resistance. So, and she always
I'm gonna
remains
get
patient
myself
with me.
an Ensure and a
Wife guy
watermelon.
personality is often looked at as some sort of humiliation ritual because they publicly have to lower their own status and derive all of their self-worth around how lucky they are to be married to their wives. And although all of this can come across as completely cringe, it doesn't necessarily prove that Elle wedged herself between Keegan and Jordan Peele. TMZ reported that multiple sources connected to Keegan-Michael Key and Elle tell TMZ.
I decided to try something new. I have a bunch of the Mellas, but I'm gonna try some prickly pear cactus water.
All entirely anonymous, of people trying to corroborate the narrative that Elle is a control freak. We had a whole fake script on set as a decoy to keep her busy and manipulate her while we shot the actual commercial. She
You
kept
shake
his
it
own
up?
mother and brother from their wedding and systematically cut everyone who was close to him out of his life. So Love was my godfather growing up and was best friends with my mother all through college. So he had a huge impact on my life until he remarried.
It says
his
4% juice, but then it says it has all these different juices in it.
Not too long after he remarried, he
I'm not gonna
cut off
like
and even
this.
his own
I'm a
family
snob
away.
about my
It seems that
hydration.
people have entirely bought into the narrative that Keegan was this innocent comic legend whose career and friendship with Jordan Peele has been destroyed by his egomaniac wife who has to control every little thing about him. But
It's
not
water.
many people
It's just
are willing
water.
to cast
It's
blame
90.
on
Yeah,
Keegan
it's
himself,
water and
who seems to
4%
admit that
juice.
he didn't know his own potential, didn't believe in himself, and even can't dress himself. Sure, you could call it pathetic, but maybe this guy
Papa
would not have pursued anything after.
Papa also means like grandfather or dad to English people, English speaking people. Wealthy aristocratic English people call their fathers Papa. The ones that don't call their parents mother. Here comes the rain again. Like a sweet emotion. You probably hate the French, don't you, Papa? Papa lives in Great Britain. He's English. So he probably hates the French. I think it kind of comes with the territory, right? The people from the UK hate France, hate the French. I follow some guy in Ireland, and all he talks about, he's kind of joking about it, but he's, he's like laughing about how Irish people are, but at the same time, he's totally doing it. And he talks about how he hates the French all the time. And Canadians too. Dude, my fucking glue machine is so old that I have to like turn it high, turn it low, turn it high just to keep it at the right temperature. Otherwise it gets too hot and then it's not good. It like stinks. Talk to me like we always do. Please don't actually, I'm just saying.
First showed up around classmates and teachers. Crooked. It's assertion. Crooks was first of that kind.
Does Zito's
That was my question too.
of Kensil, thank you very much for doing this. You've written a book on the Trump assassination plots, the two from the summer of 2024, about which there are more unanswered questions than answered questions, and they're so transparently ridiculous, the stories that we have been told, my first question is, where are all the other books on this topic? Why did this fall to you?
That was my question too. And you're actually probably one of the only major media figures that's still keeping this story alive. So it's a pleasure to talk to you. But yeah, there were a couple of books published in the wake, like Selena Zito, who's a Washington Examiner reporter, wrote a book called Butler, but it goes more into the cultural aspects of like the Butler community and the political effects, the political fallout of the event. It's not really like a forensic investigation. This is the first of that kind.
Does Zito's book have a conclusion? Does it reach a conclusion about what that was, or does she affirm the official story, which is this was a crazed left-wing gunman?
Yeah, it's more or less an affirmation of the official story, and again, just like the political fallout. That's more of the book. She was there that day, so there is like a autobiographical account of what happened, from when she got there, but it doesn't go
Poor
into
guy
the details.
gets
of
on
what
Tucker
happened
and has a
at the
flub.
HR building or the security failures or who Thomas Crooks was.
So I'm going to state what I think is the official account of what happened in Butler that day. And then I would like you to just take us through what you know about what happened in Butler that day. So the official account is there's this weird kid, local kid, who really hates Trump, and he's been radicalized probably online. We don't really know because he has no meaningful online profile. He's like the only young man in America who's not online. And he's somehow a
very good shot, and he somehow gets into the one vulnerable place at the event site in Butler Township that gives him a sight line to Trump, and nobody notices this because there are just these unaccountable holes in security. It's just amazing. It's just a failure of security, and he takes the shot, he misses, he kills someone in the stands, a fireman, and then he's killed by a U.S. government sniper, and he had no accomplices. He's just a crazy person, one of many, and that's all we know. Case closed.
And that's bad enough.
Is that a fair representation of to this day, the story of what happened in Butler?
The biggest issue I would take with the official story about just what happened that day is that a lot of people think the Secret Service sniper actually saved the day. Everybody knows about the slope roof excuse for why they didn't have somebody posted there in the first place. The fact that that building was outside of the ostensible perimeter, even though it was, again, like 150 yards clear line of sight to Trump. But a lot of people say, well, at least the Secret Service sniper stopped it from being a lot worse. In fact, Donald Trump said that a couple weeks ago after this most recent White House Correspondents' Dinner attack. He's talking about, well, they did a lot better at that event than they did at Butler, although my buddy David saved my life at Butler. He's the sniper. His name's David King. And Trump says he responded in 4.2 seconds from 400 yards away. Neither one of those assertions by Trump are true, which is very bizarre that he doesn't know the details about the attempt on his own life. In fact, it was a local cop who saved the day. It was the alleged would-be assassin Crooks fired 3 well-measured, discreet shots, and then there's a short pause, and then he starts rapid firing 5 shots, and then the 9th shot comes immediately after that 8th shot, all in the span of 5 seconds, from the local cop on the ground. His name's Aaron Zalaponi. He was a Butler ESU member. And then there's 10 whole seconds that pass by before David King finally puts the final bullet through Crooks.
Thomas Crooks fired 9 shots?
He fired 8 shots, and then the 9th shot came from the ground from Zalaponi.
He fired 8 shots?
Yeah.
So let's just start at the beginning. Who was Crooks?
Well, it's still an unanswered question. My book does have the most complete biographical account of Crooks, but he's still an aberration. He almost seemed like he was kind of leading a double life. All the public information I found out about him paints him as just like a really respectable young man, almost, hate to say it, but like the kind of guy you'd want your son to turn out to be like. He was a straight A student in high school, well liked by his classmates and teachers. Graduates with a 4.0, goes to a community college for engineering. While there, one of his projects was actually 3D printing a chessboard and a Rubik's Cube that were inscribed with Braille, and his mother's legally blind, so it seemed like a pretty sweet thing to do for his mother. I got community college speeches where he says one of my favorite things to do is like cook with my family. Loved his sister Katie Crooks, and he was planning on going to Robert Morris University that fall to get his 4-year degree. That's the public facing.
As of when was he planning on going to college?
Well, that's a great question because it was actually I obtained his college emails, and I got one from June 14th, 2024, where he's emailing the community college about the status of his diploma because he had just graduated, but apparently he didn't get actual proof, and he needed that to go to Robert Morris that fall. So less than a month before he winds up dead on a rooftop, he's asking about the status of his diploma and still making plans to go to university that fall, which is very strange. I just don't know what to make of it. Now, doesn't sound like a man planning to die,
it certainly doesn't sound like a man planning to die. It's like the death row inmate asking if he can, save some for later in his final meal. Does anybody around him later say, yes, he was radical and crazy and violent?
Nobody that knew him. His father, the night of the incident, the ATF responds to the house and they're questioning him. And he said, well, I didn't really know much about Thomas's politics. He liked to play the contrarian. He liked to kind of, whatever side the father and the mother would take, he would just be devil's advocate and argue the opposite side. He was a registered Republican, but he made a donation to Act Blue, like the left wing PAC, on the day of Joe Biden's inauguration. So I guess the theory there would be if he was left wing, he registered as a Republican to vote in the primaries and try to vote for the weaker candidate, something
Yes.
like that. But yeah, we don't know for sure. Probably the best evidence of his political leanings comes from the trove of data that you published a couple months ago in your documentary about, the violent comments, and kind of showed his political transformation in 2019 and 2020. But that was when he was like 16, 17. So we don't really know what happened those last 3-4 years of his life. He started using more encryption, VPNs. There's not much of a data trail there. I did obtain his community college metadata. What I did there is FOIA it from the college, and they sent me like a big string of jumbled up code, but I had somebody who knew what they were doing kind of decipher it, and it showed the actual websites that he was visiting while he was on the community college campus. It doesn't show the contents of any of his messages or anything, but he visited like a Game of Thrones fan site. He seemed to be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Twitter.com, Reddit.com, nothing very unusual. I mean, he went to like AR15.com, but that doesn't really tell you that much. So yeah, he's a total cipher when it comes to the last few years of his life.
When was the last time you heard someone on their deathbed saying they wish they'd spent more time working, particularly filling out forms or even gathering possessions? That's never happened. In the end, all you're really going to care about is the people you love. And that's why life insurance is important. It's a great way to make certain that you still support your loved ones even when you're gone. We highly recommend life insurance through Ethos. Why? Because Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy. It's 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. All you have to do is answer a few simple health questions. Up to $3 million in coverage with some policies as low as $30 a month. Low rates from a vast network of trusted carriers. That's the key, competition. Take 10 minutes to get covered today with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/Tucker. That's ethos, ethos.com/Tucker. Application times and rates may vary. The FBI has a lot of this information, we should say, and has not released it for reasons maybe we can speculate about in a minute. But it's fair to say the FBI has a lot of information about this guy that's not public.
That's absolutely right. So when it became apparent last July that the FBI wasn't going to voluntarily release information about Thomas Crooks or the event, the transparency organization Judicial Watch filed a lawsuit to force disclosure. And we just got a status report a few months ago saying that they had 45,000 responsive records about Thomas Crooks in response to Judicial Watch's lawsuit. A couple months later, we get another status report saying we found another 30,000. So now it's up to 75,000. And they started making monthly productions to Judicial Watch. But it's like a couple dozen, it's been 4 months and it's been a couple dozen pages a piece. So like 200 in total.
Out of 75,000.
Yeah, so at that rate, we'll all be dead before all the records are produced. It's pretty egregious.
Which, and also pretty revealing. Like, what is that, right? If it's a crime committed by a lone gunman who's deceased, and no one else involved in this case at all, then that's the official story. Then what would be the motive to hide it?
Yeah, I mean, as controversial as the Epstein files rollout has been, one of the beneficial things that the Justice Department did is just put them all in a word searchable database. And you think they'd be able to do something like that with the Crooks file, so people could just type in any word and it'll pull all the records with, that word on it. One of Kash Patel's excuses was that, well, Donald Trump is a victim here and he has rights too. So that's why we're not releasing some of this out of respect for him. But that's not a legal thing. Like, that's not covered in FOIA. Of course, they could redact Donald Trump's name, but they can't just say, oh, because Trump's a victim, we're not going to comply with FOIA. It's pretty ridiculous.
And of course, no individual, even president, owns the U.S. justice system. Justice is effected on behalf of the entire country.
It's supposed to be rule of law, and
right, that belongs to the American people. These documents belong to the American people. The FBI belongs to the American people. So it's a nonsensical argument. It's a grotesque argument, actually. So tell us about that day. So this guy about whom we know very little, who seems pretty normal, shows up at this Trump rally, and what happens?
Yeah, so I guess the story starts 8 a.m. that morning. There's a Secret Service site counterpart. Her name's Dana Dubray. She shows up, and none of her colleagues are there. And apparently, there's rumors that they had been out drinking late the night before at a Pittsburgh bar called Tequila Cowboy. So she's kind of upset that her ostensible partner isn't helping her with the setup. They finally start trickling in around 10 a.m. and they hold a briefing. And this is the first kind of weird anomaly, is that Pennsylvania police trooper tried to participate in the Secret Service briefing and they actually kicked him out. So it seemed pretty insular. We don't know exactly why that is.
So the briefing would be the meeting that law enforcement has at the beginning of the day to talk through what they're going to do and what the potential threats might be.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I guess one of the reforms to come out of this whole fiasco is they hold a unified briefing where they let the locals in, but a little too late for that.
So how did Crooks get there? How did he get in? How did he get to this spot? Like, what do we know about all that?
He first showed up around 10 a.m. when they're holding this secret briefing where they're keeping out the locals and the stadies. And Crooks shows up, and apparently he just drives around and kind of cases out the place. And he later goes home to Bethel Park, which is about a 45-minute drive. He lived closer to Pittsburgh. Butler's more out in the country. So, Crooks goes home. And meanwhile, we have the first security failure at the site before anything even happens. The counter drone operator, an agent named Eduardo Castro, just can't get his drone detection equipment working. He's initially by the stage. He tries to move it. He thinks it might be some kind of signal issue. He even calls like a 1-800 number for troubleshooting. And he doesn't get it working until about 4:20 p.m., which is when Crooks finally returned. Crooks flies a drone over the site for about 11 minutes, and this is like 3:50 to 4:01. And then he returns with the drone, and then the drone detection equipment gets up and working, which is an unfortunate coincidence, I guess.
What does Crooks get at his house? Do we know?
Well, he got his rifle, which apparently belonged to him, but his father was in possession of it. So he asked his dad for his rifle, and he goes to a local shop. He buys some ammunition. He also bought a ladder that morning, and I think a lot of people think that he got up on the rooftop on a ladder, which isn't the case. He actually scaled some air conditioning unit, and the ladder was found in Bethel Park in the woods later. So I think what probably happened there is he bought the ladder. He went that morning and cased out the site and realized that he wouldn't need the ladder. He could use the air conditioning and then just abandoned it in the woods. And like I said, supposedly the rifle belonged to him, but the father was possessing it. But the ATF would eventually track the rifle to the father. And the father said that he sold it informally to his son a couple of years ago, but there's no paperwork for that. So the paperwork shows that the rifle belonged to the father. And I guess there's a loophole in Pennsylvania state law where you can transfer long guns. Two Pennsylvania residents can do that with each other without any kind of paperwork.
Yeah.
So we don't know for sure. I mean, that's the story that he transferred it, but there's no paperwork to that.
How does
effect.
Crooks get a rifle?
DJ
onto the grounds?
investigates that surprise witness or whatever. She's covering the bricks and minifigs thing now.
Yeah, we don't know that for sure. There is surveillance footage that the FBI's still withholding that would presumably, shed light on some of these details. Like there's an ice cream shop north of the AGR building that apparently has footage of Crooks actually even scaling the building, but that's just one of like the thousands and thousands of records that the FBI has refused to disclose,
including the footage of Crooks training on a local firing range. It might give us insight into how this kid was able to get off the shots that he did.
Yeah, Clareton Sports Club. We went there 43 times in the span of maybe 10 months. I did find with those records that there were 4 times where he signed in with somebody else at the exact same time and for the exact same range. So you could go to either the pistol range or long rifle range.
Too
And
hot.
every time that somebody
Yeah.
else signed in at the exact same time, they would go to the same range. There was even a day where he went to pistol and rifle, and this mystery person, it could have been his dad, but the name's redacted in the records. So the person that signed in at the same time also went to the pistol and rifle. Another interesting thing I found as far as that goes is again, back to the community college emails. November 9th, 2023, he actually emails his teacher saying that he's going to be late to class. And that was the day that he went to the range, presumably with this mystery person, and they trained on pistols and rifles. And, you can go to the range anytime. Thomas was, again, a model student. I think he missed class maybe like 3 or 4 times his whole career. So I've got questions about why it was so important for him to go to the range that he emailed his teacher and said, I'm going to be late today.
Because he was going with someone else, obviously.
Sure, yeah. But, the deeper question, like why was it urgent that day, or what, why they needed to go that particular time?
He was at one point like, in contact with security at the event, correct? He got a rangefinder through.
Well, he never went through the magnetometers or went through security, which is another weird anomaly, is that he registered through an encrypted email to get a ticket to the event, but that he never went inside. So I don't know what his original plan was. Again, he might have gone there that morning and realized, like, well, shoot, this is easy. I don't even have to go through security. Like, there's a clear line of sight there. But yeah, he never went into the perimeter.
Right.
There's nothing like waking up feeling like you actually got a restful sleep. Unfortunately, it's hard to do that. That's not a byproduct of just getting older. It is directly tied to your hormones, your body. Our friends at Joy and Blokes are ready to help you. Blokes was built for men who are feeling tired of feeling like a shadow of themselves and who are ready to do something about it. No more droopiness or brain fog. A game all the time. Here's how it works. Every Blokes lab includes a 30 to 60-minute consultation with a licensed clinician who connects what you're feeling to what is happening inside your body.
Thank you
Builds a
sometimes.
plan to fix it. Treatments like TRT and peptide therapy that address root causes and help you feel like yourself again. Stronger, sharper, truly present. So don't settle. Visit joyandblokes.com/Tucker. Use the code Tucker for 65% off your labs and 20% off all supplements. Huge discounts. That's joyandblokes.com/Tucker. Code Tucker for 65% off all your labs, 20% off your supplements. Get your edge back with Joy and Blokes. He gets up on the roof. Do we know how long he was there?
He was up on the roof.
Yes.
Yeah, he was up on the roof since about 6:03 p.m. And this is actually a pretty bad local security failure. I do believe it was a mistake and not something intentional. And I could actually show you, and I'll try to articulate what's going on here for people just listening. But so this is the AGR building, and a local sniper spots him here, and the local sniper, Crooks runs off when he's spotted, and the local sniper says
Peanut butter and jelly.
he's going all the way around the building when in fact he went into this alcove and climbed up. So this is like 6:03. All of local law enforcement is responding here thinking that he ran all the way around when in fact he went in and up on the rooftop. And that was just one of the few mistakes made by the locals.
6:03 is when he was first spotted.
Well, that's an interesting question because the local snipers in that building, there were 3 in there, and one of them left around 4:20 p.m. And he texts his buddies inside the building and says, "There's this guy sitting out on a parking bench. He's looking up in the building. I think he knows you guys are in there, and just flagging this for your situational awareness." And it was initially reported in the wake of the shooting that that was like the first sighting of Crooks. But then somebody released cell phone footage showing Crooks walking on the other side of the site, like over a half mile away. So the question is like, who did these local snipers really see that they thought was suspicious? One of them, not one of the snipers, but another one of the local cops on the ground. His name's Chris
I look
Kopith.
pregnant.
He insists that yes, that really was Crooks that we saw at 4:26 p.m. I swear it was him, except he was wearing pants instead of shorts. But obviously, Crooks can't be.
I mean, I have a
2
uterus.
places at one time. So there was a lot of false sightings. Or
I'm
I
gonna
don't know
rub
if
my
they're
stomach
sightings or
'cause it
not,
feels
but
good.
another rally goer said he saw somebody that looked like Crooks carrying.
Shit, I
a
was thinking,
rifle
thank you for telling me
north
that,
of the
because
AGR building.
I woke up this
And
morning
this
feeling like I
was
looked too skinny.
captured by that surveillance footage from the ice cream shop. And the reason I take this sighting seriously is because the rally goer who says he saw this was communicating with a Pennsylvania state police trooper with a body cam. And so he actually sues to get the footage of the body cam that would have shown this young man open carrying a rifle. And he didn't tell anybody about this lawsuit. He didn't want the attention. But a local newspaper uncovered the lawsuit and found out what he was doing. And the upshot of the lawsuit is that the state police said, well, we don't have any footage for you, it doesn't exist. But again, the reason I think that's a legitimate sighting is because he didn't want attention. He was actually trying to prove his case.
Yeah, no, I was just rubbing my belly. Feels good.
So, when was the shooting? What time did he pull the trigger?
6:11 p.m. So,
You know, the funny thing is,
possibly false sightings.
when I was a kid, I wanted sinewy arms where you could see the muscles and really skinny. There was this woman who worked on horses, and she picked stalls every day, and she was I looked at her and I was like, I want arms like that one day. And I was always kind of I guess I was always normal size, just not skinny but not fat, until I went through drug addiction in my 20s. And then after I got clean off of the opiates for the first 5 years, I was fat. I was 200 pounds. I look like a whole different person. I didn't look the same at all. And now I fluctuate between 120 and 140. I don't ever know how much I weigh unless I go to the doctor and they weigh me. But I can tell that right now I feel a little bit too skinny. So I need to bulk up on the calories. So I'm gonna try and bulk up on calories. Oh, I can't say it's too hot. It's freezing ass fucking cold in this mug. I wonder if I don't have any leggings or anything. My onesie is dirty. Everything is fucking dirty. Great. I messed with my light. Okay. Where to start? I just warm my legs up, but I don't want that shit all over my fucking clothes. These piddly spots. All right. Let's get to work. Now that we're done gluing, the fun part really begins. This is my favorite part. I'll save Herbie for last. Oh, it's really cold. I kind of wish I had some propane to run the heater. I guess I'm just going to put my soft and cozy back on. No! Knew you were going to do that. Brrr. Ooh, I've got like leggings that I could use as pants or socks. Use these socks as stockings. Sockings. Oh yeah, feel like a toddler. You know, when you cut your long socks so your toddler can have little pants, but you can still change their diaper. That's better. You shouldn't give a fuck about your weight. The only thing you should care about is having two, like have fluffy pants and have skinny pants. You have to have jeans that are for when you're fluffy and when you're not fluffy. And then you just put on your fluffy jeans or your not fluffy jeans, and then you don't have to worry about it. These are pretty much the last drugs that I'm going to be doing in this bus. Okay, let's let my hair down because it'll make me warmer. I'm gonna probably want the tables, so might as well just get it. I didn't get it in my toes. Are my scissors dirty? Are they gluey? Bitch, be careful. These are sharp as shit. I have to order my old lady friend one of these things I'm wearing. She wants one. I'm gonna order it for her as a present. Early birthday present. No, I don't ride horses. How tall am I? 5'3". If you want to lock your hair, you don't brush it. Okay, let me get stoned to the bone. You should have taken twice as much medication today. No, you just need to hydrate, and you've had those insurers. They always give you a stomach ache because you drink it too fast.
You know,
All right, I don't want some of this depressing government shit. Is Madonna using a walker?
Okay, so the Bricks and Minifigs CEO and the rest of them people have some serious explaining to do. Let me show you why I'm saying that. I just came across something that I think is going to be very serious trouble for these Bricks and Minifigs people. All right, specifically the CEO. So let's start here. I have my little web thing, but this is just to kind of remind you where we are with this whole thing. So this guy right here, Brian Mansell. We're starting at the beginning. His dad is currently today, as we're sitting here today, he's ailing. He does have cancer. And but before that, his dad had curated, I should say, quite the collection of Star Wars Legos. Okay, there was like this world record type of collection of Legos. And this is a little outside my wheelhouse, but that's why I'm just kind of going to give y'all the very brief TLDR here. All right, so his dad's dying, rest, poor thing and all. Hope he gets better and all. But his dad's basically like, look, I spent my whole life collecting these Legos. I want that money from the Legos to go toward my grandkids and their tuition for college or whatever. So he gives Brian's dad gives Brian the go ahead to sell the Legos collection. But of course, it's a huge collection. So there's only a few ways to do that. You could list all the pieces yourself, or you could go and try to have some third party sell them for you. And that's what Brian decided to do. So Brian goes, meanders on over to this store right here in Kaiser, Oregon, in the Pacific Northwest over there. And this store, BJ, this is literally my home turf situation. Kaiser is the next town over. The same owners, Josh Johnson and his partner, own the Eugene store, which is the store that I take Elliot to! Exclamation point. Is actually a location, like franchise location of a larger franchise called Bricks and Minifigs. So Bricks and Minifigs is a very reputable store at this point, and they're kind of known for buying people. Used to take him to. Old Legos off of them or whatever. So that's exactly what Brian did. He goes to the store, he tries to sell the Legos. Well, I guess because it's just such a huge
I
collection
knew
of
it.
Legos, they entered, and this was the owners right here, Crystal, and I don't know her husband's name, don't matter for right now.
Stuff
He makes a deal with
is got little
this lady,
fibers,
Crystal, for
and it's touching my nose, so I think this stuff is in my mask, and it
they enter
freaks
into
me
what's
out.
called a consignment agreement. So basically, she's gonna sell the Legos for Brian, and then they're gonna split however much money they end up making, right?
In the contract, it says that these are still the family's Lego sets, but every time one gets sold, the store gets to keep a small percentage of each sale.
Well, along the way, Crystal's husband moves out of the country and she is going to follow him. So, with this deal still in place, Crystal, and this is the larger corporation here, reaches out to corporate. Okay, the CEO of Bricks and Minifigs franchise, and his name is Ammon or Ammon. I don't really know how to say this name. Ammon McNiff. All right, Ammon McNiff. So Crystal reaches out to Ammon and says, "Hey, look, I'm
A really hilarious coincidence is that in the Book of Mormon, Ammon helps to return stolen goods.
going to be moving out of the country with my husband, so I'm going to be shutting down my store. What do you want to do?"
My husband and I were planning on moving out of the country. I reached out to corporate to let them know, hey, this is something that's coming up in the next like 4 to 5 months.
She told the Bricks and Minifigs head corporation that she was planning on selling the store. So the corporation actually was able to find a buyer to buy it from her.
Eamon says, "Oh, Beth, I got just the perfect person who I think might want to buy the business."
They let me know that they had somebody who was interested in purchasing a franchise in the area. He was going to be in town and he was going to stop by and just take a look at it.
Okay. He might want to buy it. Just he'll be over there later this afternoon or whatever, right? I'm kind of editorializing here. But Eamon tells Crystal, right? Eamon tells Crystal he'll be over there to take a look at the store and see if he wants to buy it. Well, according to Crystal, this guy right here and one other dude named Brandon Best, they show up. Again, Crystal thinks this is to just take a look at the store and see if they want to buy it. But this guy here, Josh and Brandon, they show up one night and they tell Crystal, "You got to get out of this store. You're evicted, you're vacated, lease is up, everything's over, get out of here."
It wasn't until Brandon got there that he informed me that they were terminating my franchise agreement. We were getting threats from Brandon and from corporate that if we didn't leave the store immediately, the police were going to be called.
Well, in the process of all of that, Crystal's very confused. And she's like, "Wait, I have this deal with Brian Mansell. Like half the inventory in this store is his daddy's Legos collection. And I haven't paid him out on all of this. Some of it hasn't been sold."
But we don't just have to take this woman's word for it. She was actually able to save all the security camera footage from that night, proving that everything she just said is true.
All the footage and evidence is there. In the security cam footage, it's him at the store kicking her out. In that footage they fed us is Crystal asking him, "How am I supposed to pay this guy? These are sets he has not been paid for."
These are ones that haven't, he has not been paid his percentage yet. And if I don't have my tickets, I won't know how much I need to pay.
That's a business thing, and not necessarily yours.
His own corporation is sitting there on video saying they're going to take it.
Okay, fine. But then little by little, this story starts going viral. More police body cam footage starts showing up. More conversations that this guy Joshua has had start showing up. And come to find out, he's not just simply some random new buyer of a store, no ma'am. He's actually a corporate employee of Bricks and Minifigs. So
I talked to Brandon Best and I own a franchise in Oregon. Well, we did. Anyways. So we own the Eugene, Oregon store. Well, I don't know if I went to that other. So in Salem or Kaiser, Oregon, there was a lady, her name was Crystal Law. And she was the franchisee in Salem, Kaiser. Well, she abandoned the store. So she had a boyfriend and called corporate up and was like, "Hey, we're going to Scotland." So I work at the corporate headquarters as well. So Ammon, the CEO, was like, "Hey, go rescue the Salem store. And you can have it for the price of whatever you recover it for." Like, sweet. So Brandon and I, my partner, go down to Salem and we start to try to clean up that store. I work at the corporate headquarters as well.
he's actually a corporate employee of Bricks and Minifigs. So what it actually looks like is that there was some lies being told, either to the public or to Crystal, or maybe Crystal's the one lying. I'm trying to get to the big reveal of this video because it gets pretty serious. But I do want to make sure that the backstory is, being told here. So you end up finding out this guy, Joshua, is he a corporate employee?
I work at the corporate headquarters as well.
Who came from corporate to fix the store?
So Ammon, the CEO, was like, "Hey, go rescue the Salem store."
Or is he the supposed new owner of the store? Now, fast forward to today, and Bricks and Minifigs has parted ways with this Joshua Johnson. But from where I'm sitting and from what it looks like to me, this Joshua Johnson character has always been a corporate employee and is part of corporate. So a lot of the stuff that Eamon up here is trying to shirk responsibility and say he didn't know about what the lower franchise was doing and Crystal Law was doing stuff beyond his consent, all of this stuff. Well, after Crystal left, for months and months went by, Joshua was in charge of the store. Now, like I said, police body camera footage started coming out recently, especially the unredacted police body camera footage. And what it looks like really like it when people are being accused of doing something wrong just by virtue of their religion. I don't think that's cool. I mean, it kind of goes against the establishment clause. It kind of goes against everything that I kind of believe in. Like, people should be able to have free speech and practice their religion or whatever. But girl, the longer and the more I look at this case, the more the Mormon mafia, and this is not all Mormons, okay? This is like the heartland of Mormons over here. But the more those allegations start to actually make some kind of sense. And it all sort of ends up coming to a head with what I found on Reddit today. Okay. So this is Reckless Ben. Just wanted to show y'all, him versus him. Now there's all kinds of lawsuits going on. You probably heard about it, but this is just a reminder of what's going on. So this guy right here, he ends up taking over the store along with another fella by the name of Brandon Best. Okay, so people are already like, wait, is this guy a corporate employee? Is he some random new owner? What is his connection with the corporation, the franchise, Bricks and Minifigs? Was he more like somebody who really was a new owner, or was he just corporate taking back over a store? And another larger question, was all of this a little bit unusual and irregular by virtue of the fact that the corporate people wanted to get their talons into this world record Legos set? Because, see, the whole thing rests on the allegation that Bricks and Minifigs has stolen the Legos collection from Brian Mansell. Okay, so this morning I am, minding my own business, kind of, and I come across something very interesting. Now, shout out to Reddit. The Reckless Ben Reddit is where I originally found the second page of this, but this right here, I actually went and found myself. This is from June 2004, and shout out to Alexandria, Pineville, Louisiana. That's my people. There is this little front page excerpt entitled Fishers of Men. It says, if you live in Alexandria, Louisiana, it's simply a matter of time before you get a knock on your door and meet two clean-cut young men wearing ties. Okay, who are the two clean-cut young men wearing ties? You're going to find out soon. They're not trying to sell you on anything except personal salvation. The two young men are elders Joshua Johnson and Ammon McNeff, and they represent the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
No way,
Joshua Johnson,
dude.
21 years old, of Garland, Utah, and McNeff of Orem, Utah, are testifying throughout Alexandria, ministering the word of Jesus Christ and the prophet Joseph Smith to anyone who will listen. For more on these two men and their mission in central
Freaking
Louisiana, check out
way.
page A6. Girl, excuse me? The current CEO of Bricks and Minifigs went on his Mormon mission with the random new owner of the Kaiser, Oregon location that took control of that store and all them highly valuable Legos.
No fucking
The
way.
Mormon Mafia allegations are not going to be escaped today. I can tell you that. So
No
let me pull up the rest of
fucking
that
way.
article so that y'all can see it. Okay. Oh man. It says Moments of Life left Elder Amon McNeff, right? I don't know which one's which, girl. So this is the picture. So Amon right here, that's Amon, that's the one with the weird mustache, leads a prayer for a safe ride and a successful day of ministry with Elder Joshua Johnson. On the right, missionaries are forbidden from being alone with the opposite sex unless chaperoned. So elders Johnson and McNeff talk with Renee Elizabeth, an investigator, in front of her apartment. Their work pays off as Elizabeth was later baptized by Elder McNeff into the Mormon church. Okay, so they say fishers of men, and there they are right there as young men. You can clearly see that is Joshua Johnson, and there is Eamon. That's the current CEO of Bricks and Minifigs. Are they talking to somebody that just went duck hunting, bro? It says if you live in Alexandria, it's simply a matter of time before you get a knock on the door. They're not trying to sell you anything, so we read this part. This can be a tricky thing to do in Alexandria. When on a recent ride, they spoke with a Baptist, a Pentecostal, and a Jew, all living virtually next door to each other. Again, this is about a 20-year-old article, so these two go way, way back. He wasn't just some innocent random guy that wanted to buy a store. No, no, this is not only just a corporate employee. These are people whose missions as elders go way back to almost 20 years ago. No luck converting any of them, the elders continued their quest. Rejection is common. And when they find someone who will listen, they rejoice in the opportunity to share their teachings. The goal is simple: to explain the message of their faith and baptize those who believe. Their message is the apostasy of the church and its restoration on April 6th, 1830. They preached the restoration occurred after Joseph Smith received the location of the Nephite records from the resurrected being of their prophet Moroni, who buried them. The records were then translated by Joseph Smith into the Book of Mormon. In their faith, Joseph Smith later received the priesthood and the authority to baptize from the resurrected being of John the Baptist. Okay. The two elders set out on their mission every morning at 9:30 a.m. and continue until 9:30 p.m. They stop for church activities and on Mondays when they prepare for the week. The mission is offered to those ages 19 to 26 and lasts about 2 years. Missionaries are assigned an area nationally or internationally by the Mormon Church in Utah. They are then rotated to different locations within that area by a mission president. In the case of these two buddy old pals, Johnson and McNeff, that is President Thomas Borquist of the Louisiana Baton Rouge Mission. With charge of over 150 missionaries in the lower two-thirds of the state, he alone decides who is transferred where within this area. Like all decisions in the church, decisions are made by way of revelation. Girl, I wonder if anybody revealed to them how bad it was going to go for them whenever they did this with the bricks and the minifig situation. I bet you they wishing they would have just gave that man his money and his Legos back. The missionaries
They
served
can't give him
ran
his
for
Legos back
in
because they've
the
already
threats
been like
last from 1
completely
month, a
dissolved.
month and a half, excuse me,
Or their
to 2
collection is
years, depending
in the
on the
man's house.
revelation received
The
for each
owner wants
missionary.
them for himself,
Johnson
is what
recently,
my original
so Joshua Johnson,
speculation
that was calling the cops on the one specifically calling the cops and crying and boohooing in his yard with that red plaid shirt. He began his third tour in Alexandria, with McNeff starting a second. Some missionaries stay with local church members. Others, such as these two, had their own apartment. The missionaries even developed their own lingo.
They were apartment.
All cults have lingos. For those to whom
roommates.
they minister, Johnson says a person who makes an appointment with them to learn more about the faith is called an investigator. And the act of riding their bikes and knocking on doors is called tracting. They say many people share common misconceptions about Mormons. McNeff said the biggest misconception is that the church allows polygamy. Now I think the biggest conception or misconception is that they're all in a mafia together and they're pretty much not allowing for journalism and they're self-dealing. I mean, I think the polygamy allegations and misconceptions might have been a little better, all things considered. The elders plan to return to Utah when their mission is over and have their lives return to normal. And of course, eventually enter business together, it seems. Here's pictures of them. Again, here they are, proselytizing. There they are on their little bicycles. Elders Johnson and McNeff stop to talk to a young woman carrying a stringer of fish about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. 12 cups over here with the names of the church's current 12 apostles are used to draw the parallel to the 12 apostles of Jesus. A supply of pamphlets here is kept at the ready, and elders Johnson and McNeff must look at a city map to find the best route before riding to meet an investigator, aka potential convert. And look at them right here. I mean, this is preposterous. This is absolutely preposterous. These two guys were out here acting like they didn't even freaking know each other. Come to find out, they went on their mission together. They were featured in the newspaper together in Alexandria, Louisiana. And we're to believe that this man right here has Parted ways? No, no. I made a video earlier this morning saying if you actually look and read the actual press release, it kind of invites you to believe that Amon has fired Joshua Johnson. That is not what it says. It says they parted ways and they closed the store down. The store been closed down. They trying to act like the store got closed down because of Reckless Ben's videos. Excuse me, Reckless Ben's first video, period. The first video he ever put out on the matter, the store was closed at the end. So how is it that the video caused the store to be closed if the video hadn't even come out yet when the store got closed? Somebody needs to explain that to me. And while they're at it, I want them to explain why this man right here, who was a self-admitted corporate employee, was being presented to Crystal Law, the previous franchise owner, as if he was just some random prospective potential buyer.
My husband and I were planning on moving out of the country. I reached out to corporate to let them know, hey, this is something that's coming up in the next like 4 to 5 months. They let me know that they had somebody who was interested in purchasing a franchise in the area. He was going to be in town and he was going to stop by and just take a look at it.
When in reality, he was a corporate employee, not just some disinterested random potential buyer. And not only that, he has extremely close ties, not just to the Mormon church, girl. These two exact men, the CEO of the company Bricks and Minifigs, and this corporate fixer posing as a potential buyer who came in and basically evicted Crystal Law out of her store, took over all of those Legos that Brian Mansell rightfully owned.
This was a store's worth of inventory. So that store that day was nothing but my dad's collection.
Goes way back to missions. He lived in an apartment on the mission together with the CEO of Bricks and Minifigs. Girl, shout out to the Reckless Ben Reddit for making me aware of this article. And everybody's innocent until proven guilty, but it ain't looking good for Bricks and Minifigs. I have covered this topic extensively on my live show, BJC Live Show, and I will continue to do so. But I wanted to cover this public record in the meantime. That's all I got for this one. In the meantime, fact saying defamation. Neither are opinions, and everybody's innocent until proven guilty. Love you, mean it. Okay, bye.
Reckless Ben has got some big wins in the bricks and minifigs.
Yes, I do
case.
sell my work.
As
If you
he's
want
got
to
those
buy a
wins,
rug,
he's
you can
also
do so
facing
on
some
Patreon or in
liability. We're gonna
Instagram.
talk about that today on the Legal Mindset, where we teach you to be your own judge. I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney.
This one's for
Now,
my
let's
son.
jump
I'm
right
making
into
his
this. We've
birthday
been
rugs
providing
right now.
kind of play-by-play, day-by-day updates as this thing develops. So
It's
one of
raining
the
so
first
hard.
things, and perhaps the most humorous things, is the fails by the police. And there was an absolutely glorious fail that happened after our last video. So the unredacted body cam footage came out. I
Okay.
commented on my channel. Almost 500,000 of you watched that here on my channel. And thank you for that, by the way, leaving likes and comments on that video. It really helps out.
Yep,
And got
definitely a
that
sign of
out to
mental illness having
everyone,
a
and it
fucking
had to
business
be
that you
an
run from
official
home.
statement from the America Fork Police Department. The American Fork Police Department recently discovered that files not intended for public release were uploaded to a public folder. Upon identifying the issue, the police department promptly removed those files and conducted a review of the records associated with this matter. Following that review, under the applicable records laws, we'll get into that because I am a master of public records law. The department removed all previously posted files and replaced them with the files approved for public release. The files currently available are the files approved for public release, and the members of the public and media are asked to use those files. This is absolute egg on the face of the PD. Number one, it's very sloppy. It shows they really don't have attention to detail, and they're going through this gung ho because they're mad, because they're emotional. They're not thinking procedurally, rationally. They just really want to get this guy, and they're trying to do anything to present their side of the story and try to make Reckless Ben, look bad and hide whatever they can hide. You really can't make stuff like this up. I dealt with, in Florida, many public records requests working with communities. I work with small communities all across Florida, and occasionally there would be a typo that got out there or some small mistake. But whenever you have a big file, something that's important, you triple check. You pay a lawyer to make sure that all that's released is what needs to be released. And in this case, whoever was reviewing this did not do a good job and absolutely messed this one up. And when you look at the actual footage itself, which is the second big thing here, and you say, why were you trying to hide anything that was unredacted, right? That first half, when they're talking there on the stoop of the house, what exactly was in that that you thought couldn't come out? It's sounding kind of ridiculous, and it's sounding like you're hiding more than you need to hide. In these cases, as the government, being more transparent works better. Trying to hide stuff doesn't work. And I say that as somebody who has represented governments. It does not look good when you hold back information unnecessarily. And that's what America Forks keeps trying to do. So that's an absolute L here. Now, before we get to another L that Bricks and Minifigs takes, I'm doing a follow-up because today's sponsor is once again freecash.com. If you're like me, you enjoy a little extra money. Lawyers like that money. Click on the link in my description as well as in the pinned comments to sign up for free cash. You can go do some games on there if you're already playing games. Hey, might as well get some cash back from that or do some surveys. It's not a get-rich-quick thing, but it's also not a scam. It's a registered German company. Check that out with the QR code on the screen or the link below.
Hate when you sell people gambling stuff.
So we've got here Bricks and Minifigs spin. So they tried to spin to the mainstream media here. You see this with KSL News Radio 102.7 as Utah-based reseller parts ways with owners involved in viral Lego theft allegations. So trying to say that, hey, we as corporate have distanced ourselves from all these bad people. We've gotten rid of the bad guys. That's their corporate position now. Well, it turns out that was a lie, right? The lie detector said that's a lie. You look at the filings here and you see that Bricks and Minifigs with Brandon Best, who was one of these bad characters involved here, that they came out and publicly said they parted ways with. Well, he's still on a store in Eugene, Oregon. Womp womp. And this is the sort of thing that the internet detectives on X, on other platforms, on YouTube, are finding that mainstream media is really not finding. So shout out to all those people on forums all over the place. This thing is getting out there, and the internet sleuths, you know who you are doing an excellent job of logging this and not allowing them to get away with these corporate shenanigans. And I know these are corporate shenanigans because I used to pull certain tactics like this back when I was working on the corporate side, trying to do an old switcheroo. Another switcheroo they're trying to do here is changing and filing for a new LLC in Oregon. So they're trying to file a new one here, the Willamette Forest Ops, trying to
Willamette.
switch out LLCs, play a little games there. But now people are spotting this and calling this out, and that's just
Dude, this is
not
so happening
going
right here where I
to work.
live. This is
The other
crazy.
thing, which is on the side for Ben, and Ben really had a huge W here, which he can celebrate, is he's gotten to almost 450K in his GoFundMe. Now it's excellent. Obviously, that is looking to go towards the Mansells or cover the costs, some of the legal defense, etc. Stuff going on with this. That's absolutely fantastic. But what that also creates is a giant target on his back. Now, we saw in the footage how they were very acutely interested in those GoFundMe funds. And that's because they want some of that money. If they can get that money, they're going to do anything they can to try to get that money. Because if you thought they were interested in 200K worth of Legos, which they say debatably is 100K, whatever, 100, 200K of Legos, they're more interested in 450K almost, it'll get there, of cold hard cash. You better believe they want some of that cold hard cash. And look, there's nothing wrong with being interested in money, but there's one thing about how you go about it, right? And being blindsided by a corporation that may not have your best interests here, and also failing to prepare for this and take this seriously is a problem for Ben. And one of the things, as we're going to see in a clip right now, is that Ben doesn't necessarily take these legal threats seriously and hasn't gone to lawyers as aggressively and as much as he should. Let's take a look at the
How
clip.
do you know that?
Thank him, but we should also write him a written apology as well.
Exactly. And what's so interesting in that, dude, did you hear this? Where he's like, we are willing to drop the lawsuit against you. So help me understand it. Are you aware of the lawsuit that they have against Brian, or is it the same
Yes.
one that you're lumped into?
It's one lawsuit on all of us, and they're getting us for RICO charges. I don't really know what that is, but I heard it's a big deal. Yeah, I just saw a couple of lawyers.
It's a big deal. And he's going to talk, I'll rewind here because he's going to talk about what the lawyers say. It is indeed a big deal. That's something you should take seriously. When you hear RICO charges, whether they're civil RICO charges or criminal, there is a difference there. We'll get into it when we do some more analysis down the line on that. We'll see whether or not that case sticks, which we'll talk about in a second. But this is a big deal for him. This could be crushing, like life crushing liability. And it also can go for those GoFundMe funds. So if he doesn't take this seriously, if he doesn't actually go and lawyer up and try to fight back on this, he does risk that. That absolutely is at risk.
Yeah, I just saw a couple of lawyers like briefly react to it. They're like RICO charges, they're like, oh, this is insane. Like it's used for the mafia and stuff. So
no, that means you have like insane motion. If you get a RICO charge, that's like it's a badge of honor.
It's a white.
But and these guys taking it in stride and kind of taking it, and okay, it's not a badge of pride, but take it seriously. Don't just say, okay, now I've got this on me. I've got this sort of clout of being sued for RICO. I'm now this bad boy. No, you've actually got to fight this. You've actually got to step up and fight it. You've got to go to court. You've got to push back against this, right? Because we're at that stage now, and there's enough, and we'll get into the legal defense. There's enough for him to go back and actually do that. He actually has the resources to do that right now.
Boy, emotion right there.
What they're claiming is that Brian hired me to harass Bricks and Minifigs when it couldn't be more the opposite. I saw this story and I was like, let me help you. And he's like, I've tried everything at this point. If you want to go for it, like go for it. Like I've already declared these Legos as a total loss. So you can't make this situation. He's like, maybe if Reckless Ben gets on it, he'll help a little bit. But
Okay, so let's stop there. I think that is what exactly happened here. So Bricks and Minifigs want to frame this as an extortion attempt, as something where they were going in from the beginning to extort them. Well, they're they're going in from the beginning to get what was justly theirs. And we've kind of exposed that, yes, they were indeed owed something. Bricks and Minifigs has admitted they were owed something. So if you are actually owed something, that is not extortion. That is trying to be made whole. Bricks and Minifigs, the franchise owner, were unjustly enriched. They were enriched in a way by the Star Wars collection in which they should not have been. Very valid reason behind that. But the point here, beyond all of that, is once again, they do face risk here, and they also face risk of the Mancells and Ben being separated in negotiations. Because what Bricks and Minifigs may try to do here is separate them out. They may try to say, okay, Mancells, we will pay you out, we will make you whole, but you've got to turn on Reckless Ben. So now Reckless Ben needs to be very careful, needs to make sure he's got his interests in line and make sure he's saying, hey, listen, we're going to this together. We're going to come to a resolution that works for all parties, right? Works for the Mancells, works for Ben, works for Bricks and Minifigs, and we're going to settle this and get this done. Bricks and Minifigs wants to make the settlement just with the Mancells, but they want vengeance on Ben. Now, we'll get into his psychology. I think I understand him and why he doesn't want to do this or why he hasn't done this so far, but let's listen to the rest of the video.
But that's how the situation actually went down. Like, we have all the video to prove it. So, like, if they sue him, they're just like stupid, you know? Because, like, I have the video of our first initial conversation where he tells me the story, and I'm like, oh, this is an interesting story. Maybe we could do a video on this, you know? But, like, it's my decision to make. He didn't tell me to make the video. His friend is the one that reached out to me. Is like, hey, this is an interesting situation, you know? And Brian was like, I just want the Legos back, you know, is what Brian's take has been. Now they're suing him just for wanting his own property back, which makes no sense. Like, what the heck?
So it does make sense because they're trying to reframe the narrative. They're trying to reframe it as, oh, poor corporation. Oh, we're hurt